and loses the right to such niceties. The mood changes from one of polite discovery and laying bare of the pertinent facts to one of punishment and retribution for misdeeds now proven. Almost before the foreman settled again in his seat, the prosecution counsel rose to inform the court of the previous convictions of the offender. And previous there were. 4 times before, he had been convicted of violent offences, including 2 of malicious wounding. On 2 occasions, the young man had been detained for periods in a young offenders' institution. I watched the members of the jury as they absorbed the information. They had spent nearly a week in deliberations before delivering their verdicts. Now some of them were visibly shocked to discover the true character of the smartly dressed 23-year-old young man in the dock, who looked as if butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. I again wondered what I was doing here. Why, I asked myself for the umpteenth time, had I taken on such a hopeless case? I knew the answer. Because I'd been urged to do so by a friend of the young man's parents. They had all pleaded with me to take him on, promising that he was innocent and that the charges were the result of mistaken identity. And, of course, because they were paying me handsomely. However, I'd soon discovered that the only thing mistaken in this case was the unshakable belief by his parents that their little boy couldn't have possibly done such a nasty thing as attack a family with a baseball bat. The only motive for the attack being that the father of the family had complained to the police about the young man using the road outside their house as a drag racing track each night, until 2 or 3 in the morning. The more I'd learned about the young man, the more I had realized my error in accepting the brief. So clear was it to me that he was guilty as charged that I thought the trial would be over nice and quickly, and I would be able to go to Cheltenham races with a light heart and a heavy wallet. That the jury had inexplicably taken so long to come to a conclusion of the bleeding obvious was just one of those things. I had thought about bunking off to the races, claiming sickness, but the judge was a racing man, and he had the previous evening commiserated with me that I would be unable to ride in the Foxhunters. To have feigned sickness and then ridden in the race would likely result in me being up before him on contempt charges, and then I could kiss goodbye any aspirations I might have of promotion to Queen's Counsel, of becoming a QC. A silk. "There will always be next year," he had said with an irritating smile. But one didn't just enter a horse in the Foxhunters. One had to qualify through wins in other races, and this was the first time I had managed to qualify in 10 years of trying. Next year, both horse and rider would be another year older, and neither of us was in the first flush of youth. There might never be another chance for us both together. I looked at my watch. The race was due off in half an hour. My horse would still run, of course, but there would be another jockey on board, and I hated the thought of it. I had played out the race so often in my head, and now someone else would be taking my place. I should be in the Cheltenham changing room right now, pulling on the lightweight racing breeches and the brightly coloured silks, not sitting here in pinstriped suit, gown and wig, far from the cheering crowd, in depression rather than anticipation. "Mr. Mason," repeated the judge, bringing me back from my daydreaming. "I asked you if the defence wishes to say anything before sentence." "No, Your Honour," I said, half standing, and then returning to my seat. As far as I could see, there were no mitigating circumstances that I wanted to bring to the court's attention. I couldn't claim the young man was the product of a deprived or broken background, nor could I try to excuse his behaviour by reference to some past abuse. In fact, quite the reverse was true. His parents were loving, both of him and of each other, and he had been educated at one of the country's leading private schools, or at least he had until he was 17, when he'd been expelled for bullying the younger boys, and then threatening the headmaster with a broken bottle whilst being reprimanded for it. "The prisoner will stand," announced the court clerk. The young man rose to his feet slowly, almost